Today is March 20th, 2024. My name is Melissa Ackerman, and I will be interviewing Janice Schwarz.
Hello.
Hi, Janice. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Okay, let's start out by having you, will you tell me about your family, your parents, and if you know about your grandparents, where and when were you born? Let's start there.
Well, I was born here in Dallas, Texas, Baylor Hospital, Florida's Nightingale Wing. My parents are both immigrants to this country. My father was born in Holland in 1922. My mother was born in Hamburg, Germany in 1926. If it wasn't for the Holocaust, I'm not sure if I would be here, but I could have been here because I think there were actually relatives between my parents' families that had set up some people between each other. I think I had an uncle that was going to be set up with an aunt, but who knows? Who knows? My dad left Holland, believe in 1940. He was sent to, at the time, Palestine. From there, he served in the Dutch resistance army during World War II, and he was in England, and then he came to the States in 46 and worked for the UN. My mother's route was a little different. She left Germany in 33 when Hitler came to power, and they lived in Belgium for 1 year, but my grandfather was a Zionist, and they went to Palestine and to Israel, and that's where she grew up. My mother loved living in Israel. She came to the States in the 50s, not through her own free will, really, because what had happened is my grandfather was my mother's father was a very wealthy man in Germany, but he made some bad investments, and they became very poor living in Israel. They actually were wealthy enough to bring like a nanny with them from Germany, and they lived in a beautiful apartment, I think on Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv, but said he lost his money. My mother had a hard time. She had to quit school at the age 16 and had to work to help support the family because my grandfather wasn't able to do that. In fact, they were living in a one-bedroom apartment, I believe, and my mother was basically kicked out and had to like rent a room with some family and didn't even have kitchen privileges. It was hard for her. She loved school too. She was a good student, and that was just really hard for her to have to start working then. Her older sister had gotten married, and then my grandfather moved to the States because he thought maybe he could make a living. He had two brothers here.
What kind of work did he do?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I found out like he was like involved with plastics, and then also I think he dealt with munitions or arms.
Okay.
Yeah. I know he took the Trans-Siberian Railroad at one time to making some deals with either Russia or China at the time. I don't know.
So where did your parents meet?
So back. So my dad wound up in New York, and then there's some other things that happened. He moved around. My grandfather was in New York, and then my grandmother followed him 2 years later, and then they were like, they needed my mother again to support him. And her younger sister was in the army, so she couldn't go. The older sister was she'd gotten married and was living in Jerusalem. So my mother was like, you need to come. And so she moved to New York, lived with her parents.
What kind of work did she do?
She was in the insurance business.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. And she got a job in insurance also in New York. Just basically supporting her parents. Her father died shortly thereafter. She got there, and she lived in a one-bedroom apartment with my grandmother.
Okay.
In fact, she was doing well enough that she found another apartment with friends and was going to move out. And then my grandmother told her, she goes, if you move out, I'm not accepting any money from you. So of course then my mother had to stay. But she knew my aunt, my father's sister in Israel.
Okay.
I lived in Ramat Gan. And my aunt is one of those Yenta types that's always fixing up people. So she fixed up my mother with my dad. And my dad was living at the time when they met in Dallas.
Oh.
And that's a whole other long story, kind of. I don't know if you want to hear that. He wound up in
like
Dallas. Okay, so he was in New York for a while, and working at the UN, and he really loved working there, but I don't think he was making much money. He wound up living in Honduras for 2 years, traveled around. Yeah, he was
Interesting guy.
Yeah, he was a very interesting guy, that's for sure. And he wound up in Dallas because of my uncle. So he fixed up my aunt and uncle, his sister and her husband. And they wound up moving to Dallas because his sister was living in Dallas. Because her ex-husband at the time, what was her husband at the time, was sent, they were living in Turkey, and they were sent to, he was in the oil business, so he was sent to this faraway place called Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So he winds up in Dallas, there comes my uncle, and then they were like, why don't you come live with us, Saul? So
That's
Saul,
your dad.
That's my dad, yeah.
Okay.
So Saul was living with my aunt and uncle, hanging out with them, and then he was on New York up in business, on business or something, and then he set up with my mom, and they went on a date, and on like the 2 days before New Year's Eve, and so my mother said they had an understanding, and he came back in June, and they got married.
Okay, 6 months.
In 6 months, yeah.
Okay.
And, she'd never been to Texas, knew nothing about it. She drove down, packed up her, got 2 suitcases, came down, and she was like shocked when she hit the South and saw this Jim Crow segregation.
Mm-hmm.
It was just appalling to her.
Yeah.
But she said it was funny, she had a very heavy German accent. And people would say, well, where are you from? And she'd say New York, and they'd call her a Yankee.
With the German accent.
Yeah, with that heavy German accent.
Did your father have a lot of family that made it over to the States, or was most of it still in Holland?
So what happened is, it's really a miracle that he and his siblings escaped. He and his older brother left first, and they were sent to Palestine, and so my father was sent to go study at a yeshiva, and I was sharing the story with the rabbi. He goes, well, how long was he at this such and such yeshiva? And I was like, and I asked my dad, he goes, I don't know, 2 days.
He knew it wasn't for him?
It wasn't for him. He was a rebellious type, my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of those kids that was sent to kindergarten because he had behavioral issues.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So where did you live as a child?
I grew up about a block from here. When I was born, we lived in East Dallas, but in 1964, my brother was still an infant. My mother bought a house over here on Valleydale Drive.
Mm-hmm.
My parents did. And they bought it, first of all, number one reason, it's close to the JCC.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, mid-century modern. People weren't really into that, but she loved it. They couldn't really afford it, but my dad was in the diamond business, so he had a diamond that the owner wanted, so that was the down payment on the house, was a diamond.
Okay, what was the neighborhood like at that point?
Well, it was, of course, a lot newer then, because the house was built in 1960. So it was still, at that time, it was a new house,
Mm-hmm.
relatively new house, but it was very Jewish. It was about 50% Jewish, I'd say. And I went to Arthur Kramer Elementary School, and my class was probably half Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And the neighborhood was full of kids.
And did you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a younger brother and younger sister.
Okay.
And so we grew up, we had friends next door, 2 doors down. I mean, it was all houses so different than the way my kids grew up. It's every house had kids our age,
Mm-hmm.
and we all
Play outside,
outside, riding around on our bikes, playing, hanging out with each other after school.
Uh-huh. Did you like to do any particular kinds of things? Did you study? I mean, did you like art? Did you dance? Did you do anything?
I was always kind of into art. I was not a sports person.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of always the last one picked for sports. So.
Okay. Did you, so you went to Kramer for elementary school. What did you do for middle school or junior high and high school?
So what happened was I was at Kramer Elementary School, and then after at 5th grade, my mother took me out and put me into a kibbutz. My brother had been going to a kibbutz all along, but my mother said, well, he was a boy. Originally, I was put in a kibbutz, but they didn't have room for my sister, and my mother had to be 2 places at once to pick us up at noon,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to ride the bus. I was 5 years old complaining I did not like riding the bus. The kids were mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so she took me, after a month at Akiba, she took me out and put me here at the JCC for kindergarten.
Okay.
So then, I wound up in public school. In fact, it was kind of interesting. My birthday's September 30th, so I missed the cutoff, just missed the cutoff. But my mother's like, she's ready to go to first grade, and so she had to pay DISD a small amount for me to go to school for first grade.
Okay, so did you stay in public school?
Until then I went to Akiba Academy
Okay.
in sixth grade. And my mother tells a story that she came to some school play when I was in fifth grade, and I was in front of the stage saying my parents came forth on the Mayflower. My mother's like, oh no.
So how did you adjust to life over at Akiba?
It was hard and it was easy too. It was hard because I didn't have the Jewish education the other kids did. I couldn't speak Hebrew. In fact, both my parents spoke Hebrew. Both my parents
They
spoke
lived
German.
in Israel, yeah.
Yeah, well, they both spoke German. They usually spoke German to each other growing up, and then if they thought we were catching on, they switched to Hebrew. But they never spoke that to us, and they had this crazy notion that we're just going to let our children learn one language really well.
Okay.
And then they realized, of course, it was a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I went to Akiba for 3 years, and I became Orthodox myself. I became religious and Shabbat observant. In fact, they made the house kosher because I wanted to keep kosher. And the interesting thing, I was thinking about this when I was reading the questions. My parents both came from Orthodox families, and I think after the war, and they just felt like more liberated. They can just.
Were they raised in kosher homes?
Yes, kosher. And my grandfather was. Both my grandfathers were religious, but my father's father was extremely religious. In fact, he never ate at anyone else's house because he didn't want to offend anyone by saying he'll eat at so-and-so's house, but not so-and-so's. So.
Right. So you ended up growing up in a kosher home. They ended up going.
They made it kosher because I wanted to keep kosher.
Okay. Where'd you end up graduating from?
So after Akiba, I was there 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I really wanted to go to school in Denver called Beis Yaakov. This is an Orthodox, extremely Orthodox Jewish
So it
school.
was a sleepaway, a boarding school? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the girls would stay live with
Okay.
families. It wasn't quite like Yeshiva, they didn't have a boarding department, but a lot of the girls were from out of town because they wanted to go to an Orthodox school. And that was,
How was that?
well, I wasn't allowed to go.
Oh, okay. So where'd you end up graduating from?
Hockaday.
Okay.
So I was so stubborn, and my mother, she took me to the test at Hockaday, and she goes, if you flunk, you're going to Hillcrest.
Okay, so you graduated from Hockaday, and
I'm going to insert one story here.
oh, please.
So I was going to test at Green Hill, and my mother said to them, my daughter is Sabbath and Shabbat observant, and she can't come on Saturday. Could she come on another day? And you know what they said?
No.
They said she wouldn't fit in here.
Okay.
And Hockaday was accommodating.
Okay. Okay, so you graduated from high school. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Rice University.
Okay, studying what?
I started off studying, what was it? I can't even remember, biochemistry?
That could be.
I think that's how I started, but I wound up being a history and economics major.
Okay. Well, that was a change.
It was a change.
Okay.
I have to say I'm really proud of my son because he's about to graduate from college with a degree in biomedical engineering.
Oh, that's okay.
And he stuck with it, he got through, and I did not.
Well, you found other things. So let's go back to when you were growing up. How did you celebrate holidays?
Well, we belonged for a long time to Tiferet Israel, and that's like where I went to Hebrew school. We'd always have like a fancy dinner for Rosh Hashanah. We'd go to services on Rosh Hashanah, typically. We didn't go like every week to services. Of course, we always had a Seder, and we always, like celebrate Rosh Hashanah. And,
Did you do Shabbat?
a lot of times my father would do make Kiddush, and my mother sometimes would light candles. But my home, I'm much more rigorous about that now.
How do you think Dallas has changed over the years, the Jewish community?
Oh, it's changed immensely. and I'm going to shout out here too, like Ann Rosenberg
Mhm.
really was so instrumental in starting Akiba, and Akiba started everything. Because what happened was, when I grew up, there were, I think, 3 Shomer Shabbat families.
Mhm.
There was a kosher butcher, Reichman's, and there was another one over on Lover's Lane, but was it Fromm's, I think it was called? But they were not Shomer Shabbat, but it was a kosher butcher, yeah.
Oh, okay, not sure how that worked, but okay,
Well, it wouldn't work for most of the people here now.
okay.
But basically, when you started with Akiba, you brought in rabbis. They started a Orthodox service over at the old Akiba on Churchill Way for the Orthodox people that came in. And then, what happened is, then you, like me, you had a whole generation of kids becoming more religious. So, in each graduation class, they became religious, and they wanted to come back, and they wanted more of a religious community. Akiba grew. I mean, when I went to Akiba, most of the kids were not religious. I mean, hardly any were.
Really? Okay.
Most of the kids came from Sheriff. There were some kids from Tiferet. There was no Orthodox synagogue per se.
Mm-hmm.
I was best friends with a girl named Rachel Alperovitz. It was the first Chabad family in Dallas. There was no regular Chabad on Forest Lane. It was their house on Harvest Hill was the center of Chabad activity in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm. Were you involved in any Jewish organizations when you were a teenager growing up?
I was in Wadel BBG for like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were your parents active in different organizations around the city or the synagogue or?
So my mother was sustentation chairman for Akiba Academy. My father had served on the board. They were involved with Shari Tefillah when that started up. My father was on the board of that. My mother was involved with Hadassah. She served on the JCRC and really enjoyed that. She enjoyed the political things with that.
Mm-hmm. So you went to college and graduated, and then what did you do?
I moved to New York to go to graduate school.
Okay, in what?
And I got an MBA in finance from NYU.
Okay.
I felt like I needed to leave Dallas, and I did.
Was that a good move for you?
It was great. I mean, when you're young, single, making good money, living in New York, it's like the best life.
Mm-hmm.
But about the time I turned 30, I knew I wanted to have a family, and that was actually not the place to raise a family unless you're really rich,
Yeah.
which I wasn't.
Did you have somebody special in your life at that point?
I did get married in New York, and I came down here with my husband at that time.
Okay.
We moved here together. He wanted to leave New York, and
How did you meet him?
I met him on New Year's Eve at a bar.
Okay. And had he grown up in New York?
No, he was Israeli.
Okay. And so what brought him to the States?
He was actually born in the States, so he was a U.S. citizen, and he had a job opportunity in the States and wanted to see what that was like.
Okay.
But I'm just going to make this really short. So
Okay, that's fine.
we wound up getting divorced,
Okay.
and he moved back to Israel.
Okay.
But
Did
I
you
stayed
have
in
kids?
Dallas.
Did you have children?
I did not have children with him,
Okay.
and I remarried a few years later,
Okay.
and I have 2 children with my second husband.
Okay. And how'd you meet your second husband?
I met him through profiles
Oh, okay.
here at the JCC.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have 2 kids?
Mhm.
Tell me about your kids.
Well,
I
they're
heard the
awesome.
son just...
I have a son who's 22. He's about to graduate from Northwestern University. I'm super proud of him. And he asked
Do you
me.
like Chicago?
He does. He does. I don't blame him if he stays. I would like for him to come back, and he might come back. He might come back. And then I have a daughter who is 21, and she is currently studying in Paris.
What is she studying?
Everybody says if you wanted to meet the 2 most opposite people in the world, have 2 children. She's studying the art of film.
Huh?
She's in a joint degree program with Paris College of Art and Emerson College.
Oh, how fabulous. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it is. You need to.
No, it's fine.
So she's as I always say, my daughter's living the best life of anyone I know.
Yes, when we all like to live the lives of our children.
I know.
Okay, so you think either of your kids will end up back here?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't get, you want me to get into politics here, or?
You can talk about whatever you like.
So, part of me is that, you can Google me and you'll find this out, that I'm very involved with Democratic Party politics. And the way this state has turned recently, it's like, I don't want them to come back. I want them to come back, but I don't want them to come back. I worry about too many things. I'm just afraid, what if my daughter got pregnant and something bad happened?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
These are crazy times.
Yeah, so that, I think if the state changes, I'd like for them to come back. But she's like, I'm never coming back to Texas, but we'll see.
Yeah.
He might. He's kind of a homeboy. He likes being at home.
Were they involved in any Jewish organizations growing up, or?
Well, they both went to Akiva Yavna. So,
Okay.
So my daughter started when she was about 3 and my son about 4. And he went all the way through 12th grade. So and then he took a gap year in Israel.
Okay, so they have very good Jewish education.
Right. Now, my daughter left after 8th grade and went to Booker T.
Okay.
Art student.
Arts, yeah.
She needed to spread her wings more.
Mm-hmm.
That's who she is. It was hard for me to let her go. I made her take a gap year, and she worked in New York and paid her rent to prove that she was mature enough to go to Paris. It was probably the best thing.
It's impressive, yes.
Yeah, I'm really proud of her too.
How often do you get to see your kids?
My son's home right now.
Oh, okay.
For spring break, but that's like a big joke with my daughter and her friends that I've been to Paris so many times.
Do you like Paris?
Actually, I do. I like it a lot. I was just there recently, right before the trip to Israel, I stopped in Paris to see her for a couple nights. But I think that's like the 4th trip I've taken since she's been there. But they're all for different reasons. It just wound up that way. Then I had an opportunity to go to Paris, and I took it.
How much longer does she expect to be there?
She will be there until May of next year.
Okay.
So, she'll be in Holland in a castle during the summer.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Poor thing. She suffers so much.
How lovely. How lovely. So what kind of career did you end up?
So I wound up in New York. I worked for a firm called Dean Witter, which is now Morgan Stanley. I worked in the World Trade Center.
Okay.
Yeah, even before the first bombing. I did pretty well there. I left as an assistant vice president. I was managing a staff of associates. And then I came to, when I just decided to move to Dallas, I just sent out a ton of resumes. I got a call back from the investment subsidiary of American Airlines. And I got hired by them as a compliance analyst. And I was actually there for 32 years. I mean, a long time. A long time. I had flight benefits for quite a while, but our company was spun off. But just a year and a half ago, I took an opportunity and applied for another job. And I have a whole new job after being someplace for 32 years.
What are you doing now?
So I manage a staff of I have 23 people reporting to me, mostly hourly workers.
Okay.
But we process mutual fund business. So I've been in mutual funds since I worked at Dean Witter.
Okay. So you obviously like it.
Yeah, it's been 40 years. But I really do like my job. It's very stressful and really busy during the day, and it wears me out. I'm 100% remote also. My staff is mostly in Kansas City. Okay.
Did you work remotely during COVID and with your other job?
Yeah, so what happened was my other job, we were working remotely once, with COVID. And then the week we were supposed to go back, we were required to go back. It was the same week I turned in my resignation. But it was just coincidental. I mean, I didn't take the job just because I didn't want to go into the office, but the thing is that job would have never opened up had there not been COVID and people working remotely. So I was a client of the company that I got hired by.
Okay. And so how do you like that?
I do. I like it a lot. I really enjoy my job.
What part of town do you live in now?
I live very close to here. I live in the South Arab.
Okay.
Over by Willow Lane and Preston Ridge Road.
And are you involved in a congregation?
Yeah, I go to shul every Shabbat. I may join the board. Somebody asked me if I wanted to join the board. We'll see.
Which congregation are you in?
Shari Tefillah.
Shari, okay.
Yeah, it's the same congregation my parents are involved with.
Mhm.
So it's really kind of nice to have that history there.
You still have a lot of friends and that you see when you're there? People that you grew up with?
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. There are some people I went to Akiva with that go there. Well, obviously, like Stephen Rosenberg, who's, he's a year older than I am. So there's nobody in my class, and there's like 3 people at the synagogue who were in the class below me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm friends with. So
Okay, when you have free time, what do you like to do?
I don't know. There's so many things I like to do. I don't always get to do all of them. I like to walk, take hikes, walk my dog, read. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. My sister's a big reader. She reads lots and lots of books, but I like to read articles off of like New York Times, Washington Post.
Mm-hmm.
I like to get a little more back into my art. I'm very involved with politics too. And
What kind of art did you do?
it was painting and drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly. I actually won an award when I was at my old job. They had a contest called On My Own Time, and I submitted a photograph and a drawing, and I got 2 first place ribbons,
Wonderful.
and they were displayed at North Park. So
Wow. Did you have training or were you self-taught?
when at Hockaday, I took art classes, but I haven't really taken art class. Well, I took one class in college, a drawing class.
Mm-hmm. But you just do it at your house?
Yeah, then just do it now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, who are your role models?
That's a good question. So when I was like in middle school, so when I became religious, a lot of people become religious because of Chabad, and maybe that was me too, because my best friend was Chabad family, and every Shabbat I'd walk to a kibbutz from over here up to Churchill Way, and then I'd go over there every Shabbat afternoon, and then my parents would pick me up. So I spent a lot of time at the Alperovitz house, and Mrs. Alperovitz, I think, was kind of a role model to me too. She kind of always seemed to have it together, and she was one of our Judaic teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I just actually saw her recently. She came with her daughter to visit Dallas. As far as other role models, I guess maybe my mother in some ways. She's went through a lot, and she almost died when she was 14. She had typhus in Israel, and she was the sickest patient they pulled through. And I was like, well, how do you think you survived? And she said, I was an optimist.
Okay.
And I think
Power of positive thinking?
right, I think that's really important. I mean, a lot of times I get discouraged because of political things and divisiveness in our country and situation in Israel. But I try to look at the positive side always. Because if you don't, like, what do you have?
Mm-hmm.
You got to have hope.
Absolutely. So you've done a lot of interesting things. What are some of the things you're most proud?
Well, I was elected twice as a national delegate to the Democratic National Convention.
What years? Which years?
Twice for 2008 and 2016. Both times I was a delegate for Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
And those were like fantastic experiences. And then I served on the State Democratic Executive Committee for 4 years, which was also a great experience. I loved doing that. The only reason I stopped was because it was taking me away too much from my kids.
Mm-hmm.
They were still in high school and they needed me more.
Mm-hmm. But you're still involved in the political area.
I'm a precinct chair. And unfortunately, I won't be going to state. I've been going to state convention since 2006. Unfortunately, I won't be going this year because it's the same weekend as my son's graduation from college. So, but in fact, I probably have a call tonight because we're working really hard to stop any anti-Israel resolutions going through the Democratic Party. There's a group of Jewish activists in the Democratic Party across the state that we get together and we just work really hard to push out any anti-Israel type of things out of the platform. Because there are some people who are anti-Israel in the party.
Yes.
And the party's a big tent. And we need votes, but we don't need reasons for people to leave the party.
Right. Do you want to touch at all on your recent trip to Israel? We talked about that the other day, but I don't know
yeah.
if you want to just say anything before we wrap up.
Sure. I do love Israel, and I'm staying involved with the Democratic Party because I want to make sure that there are voices out there that are pro-Israel, and make sure that the party platforms stay pro-Israel, or at least not anti-Israel. So I still feel like I have a lot of work to do, but it's really.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about?
I think Dallas is a great place to live, and the Jewish community has really developed here, especially the Orthodox community, which is great. But I think maybe on the trip to Israel, it was really eye-opening for me too. It was really good to spread my wings, expand my boundaries.
And you had been before, many times.
Yes, but I've never gone with Federation. I've never gone on an organized trip.
Did you still have family there?
Oh yeah, I have 4 first cousins that live there, and more, second, third, fourth cousins. I did see 2 of my cousins, one for like an hour and one for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to squeeze that in, but.
Okay.
But I do, I want to go back again soon.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I
Of
really
course.
enjoyed visiting with you.
Same here. I really enjoyed it too.
Thank
you,
you.
Melissa.